Hello, thank you for joining me and welcome to Write On, a video series about writing. I am Quinne, your host, author of the steampunk series The Captain and the Lady Fair, with book 3 in progress, and I have written a cookbook. Today's topic, formatting for ebook and print. The commonly used software is Word. If you're planning to write a lot of books, Word would be worth the investment if you don't have it. You can buy Word as a standalone that is cheaper than buying Office Suite. Also, purchase the full Word, not the 365. If your copy is about to expire, look into some free software. The other softwares some use is OpenOffice. There are two forms of OpenOffice. One is called Apache OpenOffice. The other is LibreOffice. They're very similar as they're both from the same core open source program. A quick look at both show how similar they are, and both appear to have been modeled after Microsoft Word. This is a quick look at the two versions of the free software. This one is the LibreOffice. A lot of the icons are very similar to Word. The layout is much different. So it makes things, if you're used to Word, it makes things kind of hard to find at first. So there is a learning curve to say, okay, I know where stuff is. But if I go to Insert, you have most of the same things that's on the tab page of Word, including headers and footers, hyperlinks, sections, special characters, breaks, and even putting in images, text boxes. And if we go to Format, we got Styles and Formatting at F11. And if we pick that one, it gives us our headers and headings. And this is where you can preset up how a header of a chapter looks and what it does. And you can modify those. Notice there's not a lot. Well, let me expand this. It hides some now and then to keep the list short. You can modify these so that it does what you want it to do. Pretty straightforward. Now, if I go over here to Apache, OpenOffice, icons are a little smaller. Again, they're very similar to Word. The layout is closer to Word. And if I go to Insert, again, we have manual break, header, footer. Basically, all of these are pretty much exactly where the other one was, except that now instead of an image, we're calling it picture. So they made a few differences. A little bit in the look and a few words. And if we go to Format, Styles and Formatting is again F11. And it opens up a separate window instead of this big mass. It's a little bit tidier than the other one. And there's a few more choices. And again, you can modify the heading settings so you can set them up to make life easier for yourself. Like I said earlier in the video, if your Windows Word is Microsoft Word is about ready to expire, you might look at these two freebies to see if they'll work instead of having to spend money. Other than that, back to me. Welcome back. The learning curve on either one is not bad. There are a lot of videos on YouTube that get into details of each one, and many writers use the OpenOffice versions. With software installed, go to KDP, Amazon's Kindle website for authors, and copy the guidelines for Kindle. Then go to Smashwords and get their PDF. With Smashwords, the PDF guide is 117 pages long. Yikes. Gotta be an easier way. Okay, I'm lazy. Let's try lazy. My references will be for using Word. although you can find the same settings in the free Office software. It sounds odd, but formatting for print first and formatting as you go is the easy way. As you write, save your work to 2 different places every time. A 2 gig flash drive has got lots of room for docs and pics related to the work. A battery backup won't be a bad idea either. This may take 2 or 3 videos to cover, but we'll get there. Some don'ts for print or ebook. Don't use tab or spaces to create new paragraphs. Don't use crazy fonts. Don't use font colors. When doing a print book layout, if you don't want extra blank pages at the end, find out what the printer's normal number of signatures are. 2, 4, or 8. By knowing this, you know what pages will be left over. There'll be more on that much later, but what it amounts to is the pages that you have in your book divisible by the signatures. What's a signature? A signature, if you take a normal sheet of paper, fold it in half, you now have a signature. You put 2 of those together, you now have a 4 signature. And so on. What this means is that based on the number of pages you have, you may have 1 or 3 blank pages at the end. Knowing this ahead of time, you can adjust your text or plan on more endnotes or something else to fill that blank paper. Let's get and do some work. We're going to do video working on words. Let's look at Word and formatting. All right, we're looking at Word, and we're going to start talking about formatting. If you're just starting, I suggest you assign chapter numbers, whether you know what to call them or not, or even if you're going to give them a subchapter name. It'll help you get organized, and it'll make it easier later if you set up the headings for the chapters as you go. It saves you from having to go through all of them at the end. So the first thing we want to do is tell it that it is a chapter heading, and this will create a bookmark. Then the subchapter heading, we're going to tell it it's a subchapter heading, and that will link it to the main chapter heading. This will be used later when we're doing a table of contents. Now, to do this is actually fairly simple, although it's so simple I mess it up quite often. Notice that my word stayed in normal. That's normal body of text, which is all this down here. My whole story is normal. We want to tell it that it's a heading. Now, if I go hover over heading, it shows me it's going to change the font, enlarge it, and underline it. I don't want to do that. So the easiest way to do that is right-click and tell it update heading 1 to match. And this 1 is going to jump. There we are. Now, if we go to the second part and we tell it that it's a heading 2, it's gone way over there. So we're going to say update heading 2 to match. Now, from experience, and you can see that things have worked, and I'll show this real quick because it's kind of dizzying. There's a little caret next to the new city. Well, that's indicating the whole block, that it's been given a heading and a link. So, just so you know, if you don't see that, something happened and it's not there. If I go up over the 1, I get it too. But we need to check out these headings. Within Word, when they do the presets, they kind of mess with you. I don't know why. We've got Garmon 12, which is what I had, and it took. We have automatic, which is good. Leave that on automatic. This is actually designed for picking colors. We don't want to do that. If you pick black, and your text is already black, so I don't know why you would do that, some e-readers have night mode, and that changes the white background to black and the white letters, or the black letters to white. If you select black, it will not let it change, so they end up with a black background and black letters. They're not going to be happy with you. So let's go down to Format, and we're going to go into Paragraph. Now, the alignment centered, that's good. Level 1, left-right indent's good. First line, 0.3, oops. We don't want that. So we're going to change that to 0.0. We don't want to shove the chapter heading over. Line spacing single, 0, 0. Okay, we're good. So we'll say okay and okay. Now notice that the subchapter is offset. So let's take a look at it. We'll go into heading 2, which we could create a new heading and call it subchapter, but heading 2 is fine. Garmon 12 automatic, okay. Format, paragraph, first line, oops, 0.01. Sorry, 0.0. Got ahead of myself again. And we hit it, and there we are, we're fixed. This is actually now centered. Now we have a indent here to indicate a new paragraph. We have a chapter heading, and anything below the chapter heading is a new paragraph. So we're saying new paragraph, new paragraph. Most books do not have this new paragraph on the first paragraph. Excuse me. So we're going to fix that. Notice it's in normal. Well, what we want to do is highlight this puppy. And go to the styles page. We can click on normal, and we could modify this. We could update it to match and play with it, but it's already matched. So let's go down here and right click, and we have styles. But when we click on this styles, we have create a style. So we'll create our own style. And we're going to call this first paragraph. And then we're going to modify it. Garmon 12 automatic. Full justify. Okay. Format paragraph. First line 0.03. We're going to make it 0.01. And single and blank. All right. You're saying, wait a minute, we've been doing 0.0. Why are we doing 0.01? There are some e-readers out there that they watch for paragraphs. If the first line of the new paragraph is not indented, for whatever reason, the programmers decided, okay, we'll make it indent. So it'll go through, and as they're reading, it'll keep indenting where they shouldn't be. So we're going to say, okay, and we're going to say, okay, and now the indent's gone. But if we look real close, we can see that the N over the top of the M is just slightly offset. And if we go back out and we get rid of the highlight, you're not going to see it. So we've now taken care of setting up a chapter. We've set up our first paragraph, and you just go through and do your chapters after that. All right, here's chapter 2. We'll highlight that. It went to normal. we're going to call that heading 1. We're going to highlight this part here. See, it went to normal. We're going to call it heading 2. And if we look in here, go into modify, go into paragraph, we're still good. It doesn't change it later. It just stays. Once you set that up, it'll stay there. So these two, are set up for doing a table of contents. Now we can take this first sentence. We don't have to do anything wild and crazy. We just tell it first paragraph. Gee, formatting just got a little bit easier. So if you're doing this as you go, it's not really work. If you have to do it, say you have 80 chapters, yeah, it's going to take you a while, but it's a lot easier than trying to adjust things by hand. So that, in a nutshell, is doing the basic formatting for a print within the text. Now let's talk about the book. The book, if we go to page layout and we go to page size, I have to go down here to more page sizes to show what mine is. Mine is a height of 8.5 by 5.5 inches. That was chosen when I went to the printer's website. You make decisions about your cover stock and your paper stock. You can choose white, you can have cream, you can have off-white. They usually have several choices. Each one of those has a different weight, which is a different thickness to the paper. They will give you that thickness. You multiply it times the total number of pages. So if you set this up as 5.5 by 8.5, as I did, and we look down here in the bottom, it will show me that I have 281 pages. So if I take that number that they give me for the thickness of the pages and multiply it by 281, it's going to tell me how thick my book is going to be, and I need to make note of that. The other thing about the page size, another common size, is 6 by 9. If I had chosen 6 by 9, I probably would have had maybe 260 pages, 270 pages. So the size determines your money based on the page count. The per page from the printer is usually the same in a very broad range. So if it costs you, we'll give you an example of 1/100th of a penny for a page. That applies to whether it's a small book all the way up to a larger book, including larger than mine, larger than 6 by 9. So you're paying by the pages, not by the size, but your cost changes because your pages changes on the size. So now that we've mentioned gutter, let's talk about it. This is the gutter. It's where the printer glues the two sides together. When you multiplied out that number of pages times the thickness of the paper, it'll end up telling you the thickness of the book, and then the printer will then have a thing that'll tell you what the gutter size has to be. It's usually fixed from this size to this size is this gutter size. From this size to this size is this gutter size. If you get close to the higher end of the size, set your book up a slightly higher gutter size, just to be on the safe side. Now, when we do this layout and all of this, let me go back into margins. You're also setting up your layout for top bottom, and sides for how much space. Anything over half an inch and you're getting a little bit ridiculous. I set mine for half an inch because I was using more than one printer and their trim was different with each. So, okay, I'll give myself some slack. Now, the reason that the top is larger than the bottom is because of the header. And you have to play with that and adjust it in order to get the header reasonably close to the top, and then adjust where your text is in relationship to the header. And that 0.9 adjusts the text up and down so that you can compare it to where it is to your header. I know that's semi-confusing, but that's the way it is. You also want to do mirror margins so that that'll show up for you, and we'll just say okay. Now what we have in my book, let's go to home and we're going to change the view and go to multiple pages. We have thin on the left on that first page. We have thick on the right. Then on this one, we have thick on the left and thin on the right. This would be the left-hand page with the gutter in the middle of the book. And then this is the right-hand page. Normally, your left-hand pages are even numbered and your right-hand pages are odd. Now, if I go up here, I have 2 pages that I inserted. That did not change my numbering sequence. But if I'd put in a 3rd page, it's still not going to change my numbering sequence. But it would change where this first page was. This page is the right-hand page when you open the book. The left is actually the back side of the cover. This page is the right-hand page. I'm sorry, the next page when you turn the page. And it is married up to being opposite of this first page. So this is the gutter right here between these 2 pages. You want your book to start on a right-hand page. So if I'd added a page, that would have thrown this page onto the back of another page. So instead of adding 1, I would have ended up adding 2 pages. So I had a total of 4, so this stays on the right side. So in that case, if you have to do that, you might spread out your title. You might make a separate dedication page, put more in it. You may even put a black and white sketch in the front of the one of those front 3 pages. Now, having said that, when we go to do a table of contents, it will change the page count. Don't care. Ebooks don't have pages. Ebooks go by location. Ebooks also don't have headers, so those will disappear. So we don't have to worry about that. They don't have margins because it's wraparound. Don't have to worry about that. So when you do an ebook and you add pages such as a table of contents, it's not going to be a problem. All right. Now, having mentioned headers, well, I'm going to stop here, and headers and page numbers is a whole nother thing. I'll turn this back over to me. This video is running long, so I'll stop here and continue it in a second video. I hope this has been of some help. The next video will include headers and page numbers. Until then, write on.